And once again, welcome back as we're moving right along. Very busy news day. A lot going on out there, and there's no better person to talk to than our contributor here on Wednesdays is Ken Bombace with a long background resume in criminal intel and all the different areas that we are concerned about, issues that we want to talk about. So it's always good to have Ken on. Ken Bombace, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Tom. Thanks for having me on. And like you said, lots going on today.
Yeah, here's one thing that got to me. Here, Eric Adams gets elected mayor of New York City. And I said, and Ken, you could certainly relate as a law enforcement officer, former law enforcement. You put somebody like that as mayor, he knows the analytics. I had said this during the early part of the show. He could look at the different boroughs and look at the different precincts and decide where allocation should be for forces and so on. While he was a captain, he could certainly confer. I'm sure he was in on some of the big meetings that were taking place with the higher-ups and how to deploy when it comes to higher crime rates. But he said something the other day. Now he's the mayor. He's not NYPD anymore. And you always think that's in your blood. You always say law enforcement's in your blood. I know I say that all the time. That never leaves you. But he said that it's not so bad. Subway crime is overblown. 3.5 million people use the subways all the time. I think every day or whatever he was saying. I think he was referring to every day. But we are seeing, according to the numbers, based on the incidences that are reported, about a 43% increase in violent crime, as we were referring to when you were on last Wednesday and so on. We saw the iron worker that was murdered earlier this month by assisting a female police officer deal with a recalcitrant individual who ended up taking a knife and stabbing the Good Samaritan, who ended up passing away. Yet when these type of horrific crimes are taking place, this mayor now is saying that what do you expect? You're going to get some crime, but considering the number of people that ride safely, it's not the issue that many politicians are saying it. Coming from a normal politician, normal meaning somebody who doesn't know about law enforcement, I could almost understand that, trying to save his you-know-what. But at the other hand, somebody who was a career officer, a career law enforcement professional, I don't get this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is pure politics. That's what it is. He knows, I think what he's saying isn't what he really believes as a former law enforcement captain. I mean, there's no department that's more statistically in tune with crime rates than New York City. They've had Comstat, and they're one of the first departments in the U.S. with intelligence-led policing. So he knows what's going on right now. And he made a statement the other day that saying that, referring specifically to the subway crime, that firearms are the issue. That's the big problem with the surge in homicides on subways. And the statistics show that's first of all, firearms are only used in a fraction of them down there. So it really isn't. And also, Tom, it's like we've had guns a long time in New York City. He knows that as well as anyone. We had a lot of guns under Mayor Bloomberg. We didn't have this crime then. This is beyond firearms existing in the city of New York. These crimes we're seeing, it has to do with the policies that you and I have spoken about so many times, these bail reform policies, the less is more. We have people just recently, I can't even keep track if we're talking about the same one, but we just had a 43-year-old union steam fitter stabbed. He was trying to actually help a female police officer, right?
And
he gets stabbed, and he dies. And meanwhile, that guy just last month was charged, or last year was arrested for assault charges. One of them was for stabbing somebody. And the judge reportedly denied the request for a $50,000 bail. Yeah. So he was able to walk free. That guy shouldn't be in the streets. That's the problem. It's not just guns. It's a very simple view on it, and it's actually a political view. It's the only answer you get a lot of times from the Democratic Party when it comes to crime. It's gun laws. That's the only thing that can save us. And I think you and I, with our experience, both know that's simply not true.
Oh, it's exactly not true. And, again, glad that you're saying what you're saying, because I believe that Eric Adams, former Captain NYPD, has transformed from blue to politics. That's it. He's going to be political. Look, it's his city. Don't blast my city. Don't say we have a crime rate in my city, because I need people to come here. I need tourism. I need tourist dollars. I need all of this. The hotels need to be filled up, the restaurants. So we're not going to say this anymore, forgetting the fact that people are dying. like the iron worker that you spoke about, 43-year-old, wonderful man by all accounts, would help people, and he was going to the aid of a public servant, a female police officer, and as a result pays with his life. And yet that's the sort of thing that should get front page headlines in order to accentuate the problem and focus in on the problem. They're not doing that. And that's where the frustration comes from. I know folks like you and people like me, we feel that way. And, again, it's something that we need more movement towards what the right education would be of the average person who may not see it the way. It's very simple. And you said it yourself, is that these people that are being arrested are not starting out. It's not the first time. They're career criminals, and therein lies. Somebody should have a bulb lit up in their head. Well, maybe we ought to put these people in and keep them in because they're career criminals. Ken?
Right. Tom, I think everyone in America knows the real problem. In fact, I think even people like Mayor Adams know the real problem. He's just not going to say it because it's not politically, it doesn't support the narrative of his political party. So he can't say that. But that's the issue we're facing right now is the less is more policy that Governor Hochul signed on to. These people shouldn't be out on the streets, and that's the problem we're facing. The other day, we had this incident, I think at a McDonald's with a guy, and we might have talked about this last week a bit, but he had an axe or hatchet or something, horrific event where he's like threatening everybody, and there's an attack in a McDonald's. The next day, he makes a statement saying, he said, I did my 18 hours. Which is insane for him to say, but it's insane that that's true. His 18 hours for a crime like that, you'd think that if that person's not deemed somebody who's dangerous, that's the problem. You're not allowed to keep somebody in because we're not allowed to consider potential threats to people or danger. That's the problem we're facing right now. Is specifically nothing else has changed other than a really negative sentiment towards police for the last several years. There's been a movement towards that. We saw that yesterday in Philly, where these people on motorcycles surrounded the police. They're attacking their police cars with bricks. I mean, it's out of control right now. And these policies, they sold it to these policies as well. Low-level crimes, bail reform. People shouldn't be going to jail because they don't have $100 on them. That's not what this is at all. This is totally run amok. We have people who are committing violent crimes against police officers even, and they're walking out the next morning. Everyone knows what the problem is, and I think it's going to hurt the Democratic Party in the midterms because I think everyone's onto it.
Yeah. And also, in addition to what you're saying, is I've been reading about some of the new focus. It's the new wave crime, scooter crimes, where there's two individuals on a motor scooter, and they go up and down the streets and the sidewalks in New York City, and they're taking wallets and pocketbooks and ripping chains off people's necks, and not just the pedestrians, but they're going down the sidewalk cafes. They're doing the same thing. And when NYPD tries to get a hold of them or tries to catch them, they go up the wrong way. It's very difficult to catch them, especially when you're in a squad car. Even if the police officer's on a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler, it becomes very, very difficult. So the bad people have invented new ways to commit crimes in our New York City, because we are very much attached to New York City and Nassau and Suffolk County. And they found these new ways to do this, and it's more profitable because they know that the laws allow them to do it in terms of getting caught and so on. So we're entering a new phase of lawlessness that, unless we get a handle of it, we're going to be like some futuristic science fiction movie.
Oh, it's funny you just said that because I was thinking of Escape from New York as we're talking about this, and I'm dating myself a little bit, but that's what this is like. It's like Escape from New York, where the criminals are running the city. There was another story about 20 luxury cars were stolen, and now they think they're going to use those to commit more robberies and burglaries. It's completely out of control in New York City, and to say that it's not is, first of all, a lie. And then to blame it on something as simple as there's too many guns or gun laws aren't strong enough in New York City of all places. It's just not true. And I think people are seeing through it. And when their lives are impacted personally, that's when people they ignore party lines, and they're going to be forced to vote for whoever they think is going to protect their family. And that's what I think we might be seeing soon.
I'm starting to feel it in light of the fact of even just our conversation right now with the scooter crimes and the fact that, I did read about it was a dealership, an auto dealership in Queens that lost about 20 cars being stolen. Somehow the thieves were able to break into the lockbox and get the keys, and that we will see these automobiles being used in criminal action. So it's leading to the point 20 days from now, people are going to have to vote for this. I had said about a year ago that I believe that crime was going to be the number one issue come November 2022. November 2022 is here. It's ready to finally prove to all of us, those of us who have pontificated about these issues in the last year or so. It's finally going to be here. We're going to be broadcasting that night, by the way, folks, and we will give you results as they start to come in. We will give analysis and so on. We'll get Ken to call in and give an analysis. So we'll put this all together so that it's going to be an exciting night. So I'm doing a quick promo for the night of November 8th. We'll be doing live here on LI News Radio. But in addition to that, let's switch gears a little bit. People are certainly concerned about crime, but they're concerned about the damn gas prices, Ken, and they're starting to go up again. Here we were all excited. I was excited. I said, maybe, just maybe, we can get ourselves down into the twos so all of us can breathe a little bit. Inflation is killing us. Everything is related to those damn gas prices. So now the president has depleted the strategic petroleum reserves by one-third since going back to the early 1980s. Now, you're an intelligence and an analyst, and how is that going to impact us on the world stage? And I think he's announcing today some more millions of barrels are going to be taken out of strategic petroleum reserve. Is he being foolish?
So they just announced 15 million barrels from the strategic oil reserve he's going to tap into. And here's the problem. I have many problems with this, mostly from a national security standpoint, because these are for exactly what we all know them for. They're just for an emergency with our country. That's what the strategic oil reserve's for in the first place. So first of all, I don't think this qualifies for us to be tapping into this right now. The main reason I say that is because our problem is self-inflicted. We can produce more oil. We decided not to. We had a political agenda that said it was a bad thing to pump more oil, so we're not doing it. So that's not what the strategic oil reserve is for. And the other part I really have an issue with is that he's depleting this, another 15 million barrels from our strategic oil reserve right now. And everyone in America knows there's only one reason he's doing that, and that's to bring down temporarily the cost of fuel leading into the midterms. Purely political reasons right now is the only reason they're tapping into that. And that is, I think, shameful and I think dangerous, because we may really need those oil reserves at some point. And I think it's the lowest it's been since 1984 right now. And that's scary, I think, Tom.
Again, as you say, they call it the strategic petroleum reserves for one reason or another. But should this bother the American people? The Saudis put out a press release, or in their statement, they said when Joe Biden went there and did the fist bump with the Prince Hayed, or whatever the heck his name is, and sat there with him, he said, could you not raise the price of the barrel of oil or cut production? Could you not cut production till after the American election? And he asked them to do that. But then I started to think about this, and the people listening are certainly thinking about it too. Does it matter more if we pay less gas until we vote, and then after we vote, the prices are going to go up, like to be damned of the American people? Isn't this about making life better for the American people? And it should have nothing to do with an artificial date of November 8th. Are we making these decisions, we meaning the White House, we meaning the President of the United States and the United States of America, making these decisions simply to win votes on November 8th? And that after that, so what if the American people have to pay more, not just in their fuel costs for their pickup trucks and their automobiles or what have you. But now we're going into a winter time, and they're going to be paying, I think, as of yesterday, $5.76 for a gallon of fuel oil, and that's where it's getting right now. And all Joe Biden cares about is winning a few damn seats come November 8th. Shouldn't we be outraged?
Yeah, totally outraged. And I mean, Tom, you remember, as I do, back in the 70s, there are dealings with OPEC. At what point did we think it was a good idea to rely on OPEC to do the right thing? Were we really thinking that they were going to help us out? I mean, we should never be relying on them for our oil production. And we were in a position where I don't want to say energy independent because there's a definition of that. But what we were doing is exporting more than we were importing. And that was under President Trump. And that was a good time for us. That's when gas prices were very low. And they took specific, dedicated steps to put us in the position we're in right now. So the Strategic Petroleum Reserve shouldn't be a factor right now. That shouldn't be something that we should be tapping into right now, which we really could face an emergency. We have right now some of the greatest threats I've seen to this country in my entire lifetime, and including people threatening nuclear attack on us and our allies. And we're going to deplete the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, 15 million barrels just today because we have the midterms coming up and they want to win. That's not what they're for. They'll say that's not why they're doing it, but we all know that's exactly why they're doing it.
The Saudi said the president told them that this is why I need you to not cut production. I mean, I can't even express the words. I couldn't believe that the president of the United States would say that and show them what our relative weaknesses are and what we care about in this country is to win a few congressional seats as in payment for the hardship, the economic hardship of what Americans are feeling. A family of four here in Suffolk County has lost about $7,500 yearly. In the amount of inflation and what the increase in costs are there right now. So it's really moved us into an extremely bad position when it comes down to that. A quick few minutes left. Ukraine, Russia making these nuclear threats, holding the sword of Damocles over whether it's Ukraine or NATO or even the United States. Where do you think that's going to end up? I mean, he seems like he's dealing from weakness. Now he's just launching missiles, and wherever they land, they land.
Yeah, in fact, he's targeting civilian infrastructure and energy locations to try and, which is again, I mean, these are it's leading into the winter. These are things we should all be paying attention to right now. A big part of Putin's strategy, Tom, has been energy overall, where he's targeting these energy infrastructure so that he knocked out, I think, 30% throughout the country. He now possesses Europe's largest nuclear power plant. He's cut natural gas supplies, and he's been manipulating them, using it as a weapon. So it's been a big part of his strategy right now, and I think everyone should be paying attention to that. And I would also touch on the drones. Everyone's been hearing about the kamikaze drones, and they're not all kamikaze drones. Some of them are capable of firing missiles and doing surveillance, and some are kamikaze. But it's also indicative of a stronger alliance between Iran and Russia. And that's another thing we need to be paying attention to. These are our enemies, and we need to be treating them outright as enemies. There's no nuclear deal we should be working on with Iran. They can't be trusted at any level, and we need to treat them accordingly.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to see how this ends up or where it ends up. And it's somewhat fearful. I know a lot of our generals making comments that it's almost there's a theme of not rationality when it comes down to the hierarchy in Russia, meaning Vladimir Putin. Do you see him as someone that is unhinged? Give you about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, I would just say that there is a sign of desperation now. I think the drones are a sign of that he's relying on those. Also, he just enacted martial law in those four regions, Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. That's the nuclear power plant location. So I think there's some desperation in what he's doing now, and that could mean a reckless Putin. So I think everyone should be paying attention to that too.
Yeah, well, we have you every Wednesday to update us on all of these world, international, and national issues. Thank you so much, Ken Bombace. We'll talk to you again next week.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, pleasure. Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, let's talk to Rich Chris. Let's talk going back to New York State. We'll talk about local politics, see where we're at, and more to come.